Ooh, what's going on? What's going on? Going to the gym early morning. But anyway, so it was just made official that Ugas and Earl Spence going to be fighting against each other I believe in March. And obviously for unification bout, 3 belts on the line, and also possibly the Ring Magazine belt on the line as well. And I made a previous video when I was talking about when it came to Terrence Crawford, and he's at the ocean, he's screaming about, oh, he's the big, he's looking for the big fish, this and that. And I said, and people are getting all hyped up about it. Some people even saying that, oh, the fight's gonna happen, they're probably negotiating, they're just trying to hype up the fight. And I said, no, you hearing all this talk is not a good sign. It would have been a good sign if he had stayed quiet, if everything was silent, then that would have been a good sign. Because when it comes to PBC, whenever they're negotiating fights, it's all quiet on the Western Front. When it came to Manny Pacquiao versus Earl Spence, boom, it just got announced. No one even knew what was going on. It was like, what the hell? What just happened? When it came to Canelo Alvarez versus Caleb Plant, it was the same thing. All you heard was silence. All you heard was quiet. The only time you heard anything was when the deal basically wasn't going to happen, and Canelo's team tried to put out some BS. So Caleb Plant immediately came out, put out the real information, and let him know exactly what was going on. And then after, Canelo went over to DAZN and realized he wasn't going to get the deal that Eddie Hearn thought he'd be able to get him by using this negotiation as leverage. They came back and it went quiet again. Then all of a sudden, the fight was official. That's how PBC works. That's how they've always worked. Even Mikey Garcia versus Earl Spence, it was the same thing. One day it was just boom. It was just announced and it was made official out of nowhere. So when it comes to, and then all of a sudden now, you didn't hear anything about Ugas versus Earl Spence being made. All you heard was that the WBA had said no to it, and who's Earl Spence going to fight next? Terrence Crawford had refused a 60-40 split. He's not going to do that. He's saying he wants a full 50-50, I guess, or it's not going to happen. He says nothing's changed, and everything's like, okay, so who's Earl Spence going to have, fight? Who's going to fight? He's going to fight Bruce Ennis if he's the mandatory. What's he going to do? If he doesn't have, Terrence Crawford, the only option he has is Terrence Crawford. That's all people were talking about. No one was talking anything about Ugas versus Earl Spence because they thought all that stuff was over with. And then, all of a sudden, overnight, Ugas versus Spence is official. That's how it works with them, And I always say, don't let the love of boxing blind you to reality. So I don't care what people are saying. I don't care what they say in the media. I go by whatever entity that is, how they move, how they operate. That's what I go by. Nothing else. Absolutely nothing else. And this time showed to be the case again. With this. This is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. You heard absolutely nothing. Everything was quiet. And then, boom. Fight became official. And so that's going to be a big fight. It's going to be a major fight. A lot of belts on the line. Ugas is no pushover. Ugas took Sean Porter to the brink. He should have got that victory because he did knock down Sean Porter, but they didn't give him the knockdown. If they gave him that, I believe he would have won the fight. We saw what he was able to do to Manny Pacquiao. Another fight where people are saying, oh, he's going to lose the fight. Some people are saying that, oh, it was a setup. Some people that remain nameless said it was a setup, and that Ugas was already losing the books, and PBC is just cooking up some BS. That's what all this person was saying. And then what happens? Ugas goes up in there, and he ends up winning the fight. And now we get the unification that that the sports needs. We need to continue to get these unifications. And after this fight is done, then basically it's one more belt for undisputed, which I don't believe is going to happen. But I don't believe Terrence Crawford is gonna budge off his stance at all. I'm not sure if he technically even wants to fight. So I'm not sure if he's gonna do what he said he was gonna do. As far as I believe they were talking about him signing with MTK Global. I believe right now he's in Dubai right now, and I'm not sure what he's gonna do exactly next. Eddie Hearn was talking about how he wouldn't sign him because there's no fights for him. You can't give him any fights, and with the amount of money he would have to pay him, it just doesn't make any financial sense. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if Eddie Hearn still signed him. I wouldn't be surprised if that. I wouldn't be surprised if he even did a one-off where let's say, he just fought on the zone, where they paid them a certain amount of money and just fought on the platform, let's say for 1 fight or 2 fights, depending on what he's doing, if he is signed to MTK Global. Regis Prograis also was in the UK. I mean, not in the UK, in Dubai, so maybe they're going to do something like that. But again, it's not going to be anything close to this, nothing close to this. This is a big fight. Pay-per-view fight. I'm not sure if they're going to fight in Texas or where they're going to fight, but wherever they do fight, they're going to do numbers. They're going to do numbers on gate. They're going to do numbers on pay-per-view. And Terrence Crawford is going to be putting himself further into the hole as far as, trying to get this fight, because he continues to try to act as if he has a certain level of leverage. He acts as if he's in a certain space or plane that he's not, and it keeps just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And you did, before it was, if you fought certain guys, you do the same numbers. That's what we kept hearing. If you fought the same guys, you do the same numbers. So he goes ahead and fights Sean Porter. Fights Sean Porter, and what happens? The pay-per-view is nowhere close to what Earl Spence versus Sean Porter was. The gate was 1/3. They did 1/3 the revenue, so they didn't do anything close when it came to that too, because he was making the excuse of, it's because it's on this ESPN app, and if it wasn't a regular pay-per-view, they would have did more numbers, even though the UFC is consistently doing high numbers on that same app, doing millions of views, no issues, but okay, let's ride with that. Let's say that's true when it comes to that. If that's the case though, then why didn't you do numbers as it pertained to to the gate? Why wasn't your gate anywhere close to Sean Porter versus Earl Spence? So now what are you going to say for your next bout? Now you're a free agent. You can make whatever move you're going to make. I don't know what move that's going to be, but whatever bout he decides to do, whatever move he decides to do, is it going to be anything near the level of that? Is fighting a Regis Prograis going to do it? I know a lot of people want to talk about he can fight Ennis, he can fight Ortiz. He's not fighting those guys. He's not fighting Ennis, just period. And as far as Ortiz, people are not going to put him up in there. Ortiz is someone where they're going to look long-term, where this kid is young as hell, and he has a decade worth of fighting he can do, where they're going to be able to make a substantial amount of money on him, and they're not going to destroy that kid right now off a couple of million, just a couple of M's, when they can end up making tens of millions of dollars off that kid. It's not going to happen. So we'll see how everything pans out though. But hey, like I said, when they're talking when it has to do with PBC fighters, you see these guys out here talking in the media, screaming this and that, that means the fight ain't happening. And just like I said, it was a bad thing, him speaking the way that he was speaking, while other people were saying that, this might this bout might happen, or this and that, or we saw how it turned out. Same saying I always say, don't let the love of boxing blind you to reality. Don't let it happen. Just look at the people and look at the way that they move. If you're signed to Eddie Hearn, there's a certain way that they move, there's certain things that he says, there's certain things that they do. If you're signed to PBC, there's a certain way they move, certain things that they do. If it's Top Rank, it's the same thing. They all have their blueprints. That's why I knew that Gary Russell versus Devin Haney wasn't happening. Because Eddie Hearn, DAZN, Eddie Hearn, Matchroom, they have a certain blueprint, and they're tethered towards that organization. That's where Devin Haney and them are getting their information from. That's where they're getting their blueprint from. That's where they're learning how to move from. So it's not hard to tell if certain things are going to happen or not. But we'll see what happens the next couple of months, though. Like, subscribe, share. I'm out.